Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Macniak. This is the Holding It Together Kinda podcast. We talk a lot on this show about systems, obviously, big, messy gears of healthcare and advocacy and the disaster that it's become. Today, I want to zoom in a little bit. I want to go into the intimate setting of our home, the four walls that make up our home, the people that make up our home. And for those of you who are caregivers, I've heard this mentioned many, many times, and I'm sure you've said it yourself. It's a labor of love, but that phrase can sometimes mask the sheer physical, emotional grit that the role requires, right? And I know you know what I'm talking about. So if you're a professional coming home into a new environment, or a family member who's suddenly thrust into a life-altering responsibility, the stakes are the same. You need to respect the dignity and the well-being of another human. That's huge. Don't take that lightly. So today we're going to be joined by a professional nurse, RN, named Jolene Breinig. She lives right at the intersection of medical necessity and personal connection every single day, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to pull back the curtains on the logistics of how she does it, what she does, the realities of professional burnout. Yes, folks, even professionals get burned out. And, how some of you guys out there can really keep your heads above water when the tide of caregiving starts to pull you under, and, they could be a lifeline for you. So it's something to consider. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Michael Macniak. I want to really welcome somebody important to the show today. This is Jolene Breinig that is joining us, and she's going to bring a really unique perspective to this, because just this morning I was doing a podcast and I felt like we were really beating up on people who are in the medical professions, and I always try to temper myself when that starts happening and say, I know many, many, many people in the medical professions, and I know that they would not go to school and put all this time and effort and caring into what they're doing if they weren't nice people who cared about their jobs and what they do. And it occurs to me that much like many of us are caught up in the bad side of the systems, not for nothing, but so are the caregivers and the care providers in these systems. And some of them are trapped in there, or they feel trapped. It's like my whole family's in education, and so many of them feel like they just got to get out, but they're trapped in it, and for any number of reasons. But anyway, I want, as usual, Jolene, welcome. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for meeting with me and bringing a side that or a perspective that I think we really need to talk about. And I always ask people, introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, because I'm not going to read a boring old script. And what gets you excited, and what are you really juiced up about right now?
Well, I absolutely love what I do. There are days that it's very, very hard, most days, but I love what I do. And like you said, I think if people don't have a passion for what they do, especially in healthcare, that's where things fail. But I started out in nursing homes, worked my way up, started out as a CNA and all the things, and then went into a hospital setting for a number of years. And during the pandemic decided that, okay, enough is enough. And I wanted to branch out on my own. And that's really how it started. And I haven't looked back.
Good for you. And you're passionate about that work. Now, okay, so what kind of degree do you have? What kind of healthcare provider are you exactly?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to mention that. I'm an RN.
I knew that, but I wanted you to say it.
Yes, I went back to school later in life. I went back in my 30s and completed in my 40s.
Nice. Good for you. Congratulations with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And okay, so you were working in the nursing homes, you were working in various roles, and you said, you know what, I don't like the way this is being done, or I could do it better, or I want more freedom, or all of the above.
All of the
I'm going to
above.
start my own gig.
Kind of all of the above. And I especially, because I specialize in geriatrics, I do home health for the local community here. And it really is, a labor of love.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the disconnect was just seeing our elders not being treated well, not having a voice or someone to advocate for them. And I just really feel that not only in the medical field or in the geriatric field, but I think it's across the board. We all need somebody to advocate for us, especially in a broken healthcare system. So,
Wow. So what I saw when I was in the practice of law early on and
mhm.
created, Melissa's project, the Guardian model, and now Care Coalition and all this other stuff, you saw the same thing and decided you were going to do something about it. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
We're kindred spirits across the miles and across the systems, right?
Yes, and it is so much more than just the healthcare side, the physical ailments. So much of it is the mental health and being there for our fellow men and women. I mean, we're all just one tragedy away from being right
True.
there. So
Yeah, very true. So when you think of it, when you have your clients and you are working obviously as a professional caregiver, and that I want to focus on that.
okay.
But before we get that far, what is it? And I know there could be any number of answers to this, but maybe you see some more than others. What is it that brings a family to say, "Hey, we want to bring in Jolene," as opposed to us doing it or whatever the alternatives may be?
Right. That's a good question. And I am a much smaller agency than some of the neighboring agencies. And I have several clients or family members that chose to go a more personal route with me. They had started out with some of the bigger agencies and again found that they were getting different caregivers, different nurses, different people that continuum of care wasn't there and the consistency wasn't there. So I do find that people tend to, when they find me, they like the fact that they're getting consistent quality care. And I really started my business out originally on the nursing side thinking that that's what was needed. But the more I got into it, and very quickly I realized it's the caregiving side, the support side, cleaning out the refrigerator for these people that physically can't, or, they've lost their sense of sight or smell and they're eating food that's gone bad. And, I mean, things that you don't think about.
No, yeah, that just made me.
Yeah, it's, I
No,
mean,
that's so true. It's just,
so you get into these homes and you just don't know, none of us have a crystal ball and you don't know always what you're going to get. But I think people, the wave of the future is really going to be home health. And I think it should be more than we're the first line of defense. We don't want to go to hospitals.
No, I think it's inevitable with the costs of everything and the insurance companies becoming more and more, let's just say stringent.
Right.
I think it's going to it's inevitable, and so kudos to you. You said a real key, one of my key seven components of a healthy service system is consistency,
Yeah.
and I love the idea that you're a one person show.
I have a couple younger critical thinking CNAs that work for me.
Oh, good.
But
Good.
I really do try to be the
Right.
one, and I don't send anybody in blind.
No, well, that's I'm going to get to that in a
Oh,
second.
yeah.
But that's huge, and because again, getting back to my work with mental illness and let's say paranoid schizophrenia, right? And you're dealing with folks who have dementia, or and particularly because you're working in the geriatric populations. What makes, talk about consistency. Can you imagine if you are a confused elder or if you are a person with paranoid schizophrenia, and every day there's somebody new knocking on your door to bring you your meds? I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah. Or you turn around and a total stranger is in your home going through your cabinets. I mean,
yeah. And you
I've
forgot they were there because you have dementia or Alzheimer's, and it's like,
exactly. And yeah, there's no,
it's got to be horrifying. It's
yeah,
got to be horrifying.
yes.
Let me ask you this. You said that, some folks that they decide that they're going to go from a bigger agency to a smaller, more personal touch, which I love. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
And let me ask you this: do you think that these folks struggle with the decision to bring other people in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not just the demographic that I work with, although I do feel that the generation that I'm working with, they are a very private group of people. They were
Sure,
raised
they are.
in an era that, that you don't share your problems.
Yes, I've had that experience with my elder relatives who unfortunately just passed away not too long ago. But yes, they
Yes.
very especially to a younger guy in the family, right? It's like
Right.
it takes a while.
Oh,
I've
yes.
been practicing law for over 30 years and they still don't want to talk to me about some legal stuff. But yeah,
Exactly.
but what about the kids of
Yes, and
the
that's generally who I deal with. It's not my clients or patients themselves.
right.
90% of the time I'm dealing with the children or, extended family. They're the ones that find me and hire me. And
Yeah.
and in fact, I just onboarded a new client that has four children, and the children were, we've been in talks for months and months, and it's been going back and forth. And oh well, there's four of us. We should be able to handle this. We should,
Yeah,
and then
that could be one of the worst situations, but go ahead. I'll
yeah, it's true because people feel like they should be able to take care of their own parents or deal with it amongst, especially if there's multiple siblings, which people need to let go of the guilt. I do this for a living, whereas they have full-time jobs, they have children,
right.
they have and nobody really prepares you for taking care of your elderly parents.
And that's exactly one of the big messages, if nothing else from tonight, right? You got to get rid of that guilt and
Yeah.
you have to have a life and your parents wouldn't want you, at least most parents.
Right.
I mean, at least most parents wouldn't want you to be sacrificing your prime life for them. I honestly believe that. And I really think that people do. Well, I know that people really struggle with that guilt. And
Yes.
another thing that you touched on is the sibling groups. I mean, I have to tell you, I have seen, God bless you if there's four or five of you and you think you could handle this care,
Right.
but how often do you see it turn into a resentment festival and who's not pulling their weight and
Oh, every single day, every single time.
right.
Yes. And my husband is an only child, and he always says, there are perks to being an only child.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Downside too, but yes, you do get to see the dynamics within the family, and
Mhm.
but I think it goes back to building trust, and again with my patients, my clients, strictly dealing with me 99.9% of the time, and it's building that rapport. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think if you can really build a rapport and trust, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think
Well,
that's what's lacking in hospitals in the sense, or facilities, is that you don't have that, you don't have the time, the one-on-one, you're rushed, you have 8 minutes per patient,
right.
it's
I,
insane.
and that's I didn't even think about it from that perspective. We were just talking about that today about how we've been that theme's come up quite a bit lately about how much time the nursing, the not the nursing, but the medical professionals have per patient and how that is driven by insurance and medical and not necessarily medical necessity as much as the dollar and the
Yeah.
logistics of taking care of however many patients. But I think that one thing that we could say, and just to wrap up this little discussion, is I think that the consistency that you talked about is paramount and almost equal to trust. Without it, I don't think you can have one or the other. They
Right.
are symbiotic.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
So you were talking about you have a couple of CNAs, and I love the fact that you use the term out of box thinkers because I think that's one of the great things about one of the younger folks. I really think that they're good at thinking outside the box because
Yeah.
they were trained their whole lives with multiple
Yeah.
Good, better, and different. Multiple stimulants coming at them from all over the place. But I
Yes.
really think that they're better at thinking outside the box than probably even you and me and our generation, certainly our parents and our grandparents. Um,
Absolutely.
what are some of the qualities that you think that folks out there should be looking for when they're looking, talking to a professional caregiver that they may want to bring into their home, other than the fact that they're not going to steal and rob you blind and beat your
Right.
old lady up or whatever. Yeah, I mean,
That's
let's get
cringe.
beyond the obvious.
Happens, right? We would, if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't even have to talk about it. But
No,
unfortunately,
no, no, I know, and that's a whole other story for a whole other day.
exactly. I could do probably 20 podcasts on that. But
Right, right, right,
I think I'm sorry. And again, this is after a 13-hour day here. I'm trying to think
yeah,
now
yeah.
back to the
No,
original.
the qualities that we're talking about with the
Yeah.
people that,
Um,
I guess one of the questions is, are we, are people qualified? Are people coming out that are qualified, willing, and able to do the work?
I don't, and I guess I don't want to be too negative on that topic, but you and I, when we had met, talked about the warm body factor. Like, is it okay to just have anybody as long as somebody's there?
Right.
And one thing that happened during the pandemic, which has kind of shifted, globally, not just in the United States, but that they started a term called a PCA, a personal care assistant. It's basically a made up term. In the olden days, it used to be, you started out as a CNA and then an LPN, RN, and so on and so forth.
Hmm, hmm.
And the PCA term really is just that. It's a person, it's any person. You don't have to have any medical training whatsoever. And most facilities are going that route for the simple fact that it's cheaper. But in the long run, is
Is
it
it
really?
billable to
They
Medicaid,
they,
Medicare,
they
insurance?
basically, yes, they basically quantify that is like a CNA. And a lot of times these facilities get through the loopholes by claiming that they are CNAs in training. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You bring them in as a PCA, but
But
they're
yeah,
everybody's going to have the certification by the time they work however many hours, and yeah,
right, right. And whether or not that ever comes to fruition is, yeah.
it's a
So
question for another day. But
right, right. So I personally, and I know a lot of people tend to say like, "Oh, you care too much," and I find that laughable because I mean, is
yeah,
there such thing as caring too much, really?
I don't know. I was going to ask you that.
I don't think there is, and I know
Right.
it's very hard. I mean, I deal with people that I get close to that that I absolutely love, and you watch them decline, and so I think one of the biggest qualities and I think characteristics is you have to be brave. You have to be an empath, I think, or at least
I thought you were going to go right to empath and you went to brave. No, that's really interesting to me because I talk about courage a lot when I'm
yeah,
talking to caregivers and finding that voice inside you to be the advocate and to be the proponent that your loved one needs you to be. So I'm really pleased to hear that. I mean, that really blew me away because I thought empath was going to come out of your mouth right away.
sorry.
No, no, it was great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
I really do because you choose this vocation, this calling to help and to be that for people and for the most defenseless people out there, the
yeah.
mentally ill, the physically ill, you know,
Our most at need populations.
absolutely. And I think without bravery, because you go into it knowing it's gonna hurt. It's
Mm.
gonna hurt your heart.
Yeah.
It's going to be draining, but I think again it goes along with boundaries. You have to just really and I think most people know if you don't fill your cup, you can't help anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about some of those tools for caregivers in a minute
Yeah,
here. But
yeah.
so okay, so you've mentioned your 13-hour a day here, right?
Today, yes.
Today. And the other day, full disclosure, we were supposed to meet the other day, and Jolene
Yeah.
had an emergency that came up, and she had to cancel on me. I've been kicked out by nicer places, and but it's fine. We're here now, and
Yeah.
I forgive. No, so it's completely understandable, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But
Yeah.
tell us about. what a day in the life of a professional caregiver looks like.
Well, you kind of block out your day. I try to block out a week, sometimes a couple weeks ahead. I try to plan as much as I can, but given the nature of what I do for a living, that's not always feasible. And so I start my day out with my first patient client, whether it be a family member meeting or hands-on. The way it works for me is if you hire me, you're hiring me for that chunk of time, and whatever you need in that time is what we do. I mean, if that's wound care, if that's, you need me to help you take your garbage out because you physically can't,
Yeah.
it can be some days it's the nursing side. Like yesterday, I was in the ER waiting with a patient for a couple of hours until their family members could get there. And so then, I'm having to call my other families and they understand going into this that it's a relationship. It's not, you have to be human, you have to be flexible. I pride myself on being consistent, and I would, and I let the families know if it's your mother, if it's your father, I will stay with them until they don't need me in the moment, if it's crisis. And that goes along the board. I'll do that for everyone. So they tend not to get upset with me if I'm running a little behind because,
Yeah, yeah, right.
and
I got
helping.
you.
But yeah, and I go from home to home, and in the interim, I sometimes have time to take my notes and do my charting. Other days, I wait until I get home and
Really?
work on it afterwards. But and I try not to take on too many patients in a day. I really want the quality of care to be there.
Sure.
So what is the saying? Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, something like
So
yes.
I
Yeah,
take I
I
take
think you nailed it. Yeah.
I take on less than I used to in a day. I try to keep it to 4 or 5 patients a day. And then
That's still quite a bit, right?
and if
I mean,
yeah, it can be very, and when I have my younger CNAs working, they're wonderful. Like I said, very much critical thinkers, and we have very open communication, and so that's great throughout the day. If I at any given point I'm available, and I try really hard not to take too much of my business day home because it just rolls into the next day. So I think I've gotten better about doing self-care when I get home and at the
there
end
you
of
go.
the day.
No, that's huge. And like you said before,
Yeah,
your cup has to be, your cup can't be empty.
right.
So today, I mean, don't tell us names or anything
Right.
specific, but what are some of the issues that you face today? Did you face somebody with dementia? Did you face somebody with diabetes? I mean,
Yes.
what was the gamut that you ran today?
Well, I started my day with a woman that, for all intents and purposes, is very able-bodied. She has a heart condition. Her children are out of state, and they're a very close family, and they had hired me to kind of keep an eye on her and just some of the companionship. So I started my day today with a very, very lighthearted, easy, fun, it doesn't feel like work. But we take her vitals, we do, the blood pressure, get that out of the way, and then we can just enjoy each other's company, ask
Good.
her what her needs are for the day, and go from there. And then my second patient of the day is a gentleman that I just met recently and did not know the level of his dementia. It was much more advanced than the family had let on. But so that's another critical, when you can't always know 100% when you're dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. It presents very differently for everyone, and there are some commonalities, but for the most part it's very different. And
Yeah.
so it is learning to adapt and just kind of be able to do that on the fly, I think, is really important. But we had a great time. He showed me his family photos. He couldn't name anyone in the photos, his own children. Lost bits and pieces of memory from family. Yeah, long-term memory seems more intact. That's pretty much the norm. The short term is what goes first. But so we had about an hour and a half together, and it was very interesting. And I wasn't sure how he would respond when his wife came home, but he had a big smile on his face, and he said, "Oh, we had fun," and
Good.
and so that was
That's got to
great.
be, I mean, that's got to be gratifying on so
It
many
is
levels.
very, very.
Yeah.
And just to give her peace of mind, his wife, the peace of mind, knowing that she could leave long enough
Mhm.
to get her hair done and not be
Well,
worried, you
and
know?
that goes back to some of the things that I think we talked about a few minutes ago is this pervasive guilt that people feel if that they're not enough and they can't take care of their loved one. And
Yeah.
as you said, yeah, that okay, so bring in help. Don't be afraid to bring in help and ask for help.
It's so important, so important. And
Yeah.
I know it's a very humbling thing to have to ask, and it's also a very hard thing for people to allow other people into their homes. You know, you think about able-bodied people, like you're going to have a party or company, and what's the first thing we do? Oh, let me clean my house. Let me,
Right.
and these
Right.
are people that may or may not have that ability, but they're still making themselves vulnerable and allowing me into their home. And I don't take that lightly.
No, and nor should you. I mean, that is a huge going back to that is a huge trust issue for especially elder folks,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
mean for anybody, but it's certainly for that generation. It's
Yeah.
a generational thing and it's
It
an
is.
age thing, that,
Very much so.
right.
And then I went into a facility, a care facility, where I have a client who is in memory care. So that was the next step is memory care. I'm allowed as her home health nurse to take her out. And it's always an adventure, whether or not she's going to go back willingly or if it's going to be an issue.
Really, that's an interesting one. That can be a tough one
That is a tough one. That is very
because there goes that trust concept. Like she's trying to get to you to be the co-conspirator to let her run away,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you got to be the person
Yeah.
who says, "No, I'm not
I-
going to help you run away." And
yes.
yeah,
And exactly that. She's asked me not to take her back. There's such a dynamic there. And we had built a really good rapport right before she went into memory care. But yes, it can turn on a dime, and it did today. She got very angry with me. In a memory care facility, they are not allowed, and rightfully so, to have medications in their room, whether it be over the counter medications. This was just simply a box of earwax removal. And she can't, they can't keep that in their private
that's
room.
considered medication.
It is anything over
Okay.
the, yes, anything like that is contraband in a memory
Contraband.
facility.
It's
and
not
so
it's not heroin and needles, it's
no.
earwax
It's
removal.
wax removal, yes. That is
Yeah.
the that's where you can see the humor in it. And she was hiding them in boxes of Kleenex and trying to, and I had to be the bad guy and say, no, you can't keep this in here and give it to the charge nurse. And that caused a huge where she was trying to grab them out of my arms. She was trying to slam doors, and it can be very
Yeah.
challenging in the moment. But again, it's like step back, take a deep breath, and really,
Well, in memory issues and dementia, Alzheimer's, et cetera, there is I've seen a lot of it. And you've
mhm,
not as much as you, but I've seen a lot of it in the work I've done for my law career.
yeah,
There are patterns of it that are identifiable. And one of them is this aggressive behavior and this nastiness that people go through, but almost invariably I've
yeah,
seen where they come out of that too and become the sweet, sweet person. And
absolutely.
that's some of the most
I
heartwarming things to see.
It
Um,
is. And
but
yeah,
let me ask you this: when you were talking about, oh no, I wanted to make a comment about my earwax smuggling ring that I have.
yes, yes,
No,
I'm your girl.
yeah, right. Now, the you brought up the fact that the family's living out of state,
Yes.
and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, and again, you're frozen, but it's okay for right now. Wow, your
Well,
signal is
can
really
you
weird.
still hear me, or is it just a matter of not being able to see me?
I can hear you, but right now you got this wild.
I,
screen thing going
yeah,
on.
it's like pixelated
Yeah.
that, but
Well, we'll just work with it.
okay. We'll just,
Um,
we'll ignore that.
so we could, yeah, just ignore the, uh, just ignore the elephant in the room. Just,
I do that a lot.
yeah, just act like everything's normal. Okay, so anyway, what I was gonna say is, I think one of the big things for families now, and we were talking about this earlier, the need for care providers such as yourself is the transient nature of our society and what we've become. And the fact that these kids live out of state, that's not abnormal. You know
No,
what?
it's not.
That's better, right?
I'm actually finding that's more common. And I think it also goes back to, our society very much. I think if you are disabled, if you are elderly, you are considered a disposable part of society, unfortunately. They really, truly, and I think, in the olden days, people, it wasn't a question. You took care of your parents, or you took care of, or, in other countries, it's not a question. That your elders live with you. And here, I think, and again, you have to live your own life. You have to fill your own bucket. Absolutely. So you can coordinate care from out of state. And I think that's also going to be kind of the wave of the future, is that it is going to take more of the telehealth type, Zoom meetings between children, coordinating care, consistency, the care journals that I keep within my clients' homes, for anyone. It's not just for me or the CNAs, it's for everyone. It's for the family, the person that delivers the Meals on Wheels or the groceries, please write down, I brought them this, I took this, I did this, being very consistent with communication is just huge.
Well, and the checks in the mail, Jolene, because now you just gave me the perfect segue to talk about the Caregiver Journal. I know you saw the journal
Yes.
you created, and I really hope that and encourage people to use that as a good way to do exactly what you're talking about right now. We'll get back to our conversation in just a minute, but I want to take a second to talk about something that many of us in this community deal with every single day, and that's the mental load of caregiving. If you're like me, your brain is probably filled with appointment dates, medication schedules, and a never-ending list of questions for doctors. It's exhausting trying to keep it all in your head while also trying to show up emotionally for the person you love. That's exactly why the team at the Care Coalition created the Care Navigator Journal. This is not just another notebook. It's a tool specifically designed to help you to stay organized and, more importantly, to help you feel a little more in control when things start feeling really chaotic. It gives you a dedicated space to track medical updates, manage daily tasks, and even process your own thoughts. Imagine such a thing. Your well-being matters just as much as the person that you're caring for. If you're feeling overwhelmed and looking for a way to stay organized, I highly recommend picking one up. You can find it right now at www.carecoalition.org/holdingittogether. Again, that's carecoalition.org/holdingittogether. It's a small way to start holding it all together, one page at a time. All right, let's get back to the show. For the lady who wanted to go get her hair done and
Yeah.
leave her husband home for an hour and a half, she
Yeah.
can leave you this journal or any kind of diary of the events and what's been going on in the home for, or with her husband for the last few days, and talk about how important that is for you as a caregiver.
Oh, it's essential. And I love the way your care journal tracks. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been looking for."
Good. I'm glad to
Rather
hear
than
that.
just a legal pad, I mean, not that the notebooks I've been using don't work, but it's really, it's a great tool, and I suggest it to all my families now. In fact, the little pocket size one that you had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Well,
phenomenal.
well, what we wanted to do was get the things that looked exactly like the green binder and fill that with sticky notes, sticky.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
I
didn't get
mean,
it done
people,
we didn't
yeah.
get it done in time, but damn it.
Well,
Yeah, no, like I said, the check's in the mail. I appreciate the good words because
yeah.
I really believe in it. And I've seen how much caregiving professionals, psychiatrists on every level. I mean, the
Yeah.
commissioner of the Department of Mental Health, appreciates this really good, well kept narrative so that they're just not making decisions in a vacuum.
Exactly. And and I say all the time, it takes a village. It really does.
Mhm.
And I have to try to ignore the video that keeps going weird on me.
Yeah, it's weird.
But yeah, it's so much that it really does. It takes everyone involved to really have a good outcome, to help these people live the best quality of life they can live. And, whatever that looks like for that individual family. And I just think that, again, it's the 7 C's that you talk about, the
Mhm, mhm.
consistency and that and coordinating
Yeah.
and for me it's the boundaries, the trying not to burn myself out, trying to teach the next generation how to fill their cup as well, and
Mhm.
not, I was brought up on work work work, the
Yeah.
harder you work
Yeah.
the better, and that's not always true.
No, one of my dad's famous quotes when I was starting my law practice was, if you're not working 80 hours, you're not making any money.
Oh gosh,
Like,
yeah.
jeez, come on, 80 hours?
Oh, I need to
What are we,
sleep.
yeah, what are we doing? But okay, so we're back to traits again. And I think this is an important discussion because it goes to families who are caregiving, it goes to professionals who are caregiving, and it goes to the young CNAs that you were talking about and passing the torch. I
Yes.
know that one of the traits that you have to have, in addition to courage and empathy, that I don't have, this is why I could never do the work that you do, so God bless you for it, is patience. You have to
Patient.
have patience. And I mean with the CE, not a TS.
Right. Yes.
Patient person, yes.
Lots of yeah, the
Um,
patience of a saint.
but you also have to have strength to overcome your own, excuse me, compassion fatigue, I think.
Yeah, and compassion fatigue, it's a real thing. I
Talk
try
about
to
that. What does that look like and what have you experienced with it?
I've gone the gamut. I've had the burnout. I made the well, and I shouldn't say mistake. I was going to say I made the mistake of taking on a client. This was years ago, where I actually physically moved in to help them through a broken bone and also memory loss. She was in her 90s, and of her 5 children, none of them were a viable option. So, and I had developed such a rapport with this woman that I thought, you know what, I'm in a position where I can, stay in her guest bedroom and, the baby monitor next to my ear.
Yeah.
And, it just, after 5 months, it was only supposed to be for a couple of months, and there was supposed to be a lot more respite involved, and that didn't happen. And after 5 months, I just said, I have nothing left. I have nothing left to
Really?
give. And yeah. And
All right, so what did that look like? What did that look like? What did it feel like to the people out there that may be
yeah.
experiencing it? What is it?
Well, it feels terrible. It's heartbreaking to realize that you are at that point, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to the other person to be honest and to speak up. And I didn't speak up soon enough. And I think that's the takeaway, and that's what I learned, is that you have to speak up. You just have to humble yourself in so many ways, in so many situations, because you
Well,
can have all the knowledge in the world, but
no, if your brain's fried, your brain's fried.
exactly.
All the courage in the world and all the strength in the world, if you can't summon it, which
Yeah.
you was the very first thing you said, right, that you needed to
Yeah.
be was courageous, and
Yeah.
I would add strong to that. And if
Yeah.
you can't be that, then the whole shooting match is gone.
Right. Right.
And then you're not being any good to that person that you are
Right. And in
care
that
about.
moment, right. And then you're not only not being good for that person, now there's two people that need help. You're
Yeah, right.
together.
And I'm never going to go back down this career path again. You
Right.
know?
And it really is a wake-up call when you allow yourself to get to that burnout point. And so preventative, I think, is key. I mean, you have to realize that it is essential to, but it's also okay to say that you're in that place. And it's okay to say, I've had enough. I need to walk away and, please help me. Because, especially with Alzheimer's and dementia, it's short spurts. I think, more people that can be involved. And I know that's not always feasible for everyone. And that's where the system can be broken as far as finding the help that you need. And,
Oh,
I, you know,
absolutely. Paying
um,
for the help, finding the help, finding the qualified help, finding the willing help, and
right.
then paying for that help. And
Yeah.
it really is a problem within the way we've structured our healthcare system. And one of the problems that goes right along hand in hand with that is the age of our population right now. Um,
Exactly.
and there's nothing we
We
could do about that. They brought us into this world, so right.
and
So
right. And that's where I feel like nursing homes, memory care, assisted living, skilled nursing facilities, RBFs, all of that, I don't know as though it's going to be sustainable. Whether or not the sheer amount of facilities is not there, the amount of workers needed, the cost. I have clients that literally pay $10,000 a month to live in a very nice nursing home. And
that's
yet,
well below the national average, by the way.
yeah, and
That's
10,000.
well below the national average.
Yeah,
Last I knew, the national average was over 13, and I think it's over 15 or 16 now.
it is, which is just astronomical. And
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
and in the Midwest, we're probably some of the more affordable.
right.
But yeah, $10,000 a month, and then yet, her family still pays me to go, and
Right.
because the level of care. And again,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that way. And
Just
I've
as an aside along these lines, I've seen both sides of this long-term care insurance.
yes.
Have you seen it? I've seen where people were getting ripped off
Oh,
badly in the 70s. Like the companies were taking
oh,
your money and then just went out of business. Oh, well, so see you later. Bye.
right.
However, two of my relatives, my aunt and uncle, they had it and it was wonderful for them in their waning days. They didn't reach in their pockets for anything. It
And
was
that's wonderful.
fantastic.
That is fantastic. And
And I'm not going to recommend that people get it or don't get it. I think it's worth looking into.
it is worth looking into, but you have to do the research because I normally am a private pay. And this is where, again, whenever I do not set a solid boundary or I exception for someone, which I did for a elderly neighbor, I agreed to take their long-term care insurance as payment. And let me just say, I started working with this family January 5th. It is now April 30th, and I have yet to get paid by their
Wow.
TC. I
Right.
get a lot of I mean, I faxed 27 pages of documentation to them just yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and we're actually at the point of hiring an attorney such as yourself.
Really.
Yeah, it's really, but I also know people that their long-term care insurance has been wonderful.
Yeah.
So it
No,
really,
one
yeah,
a friend of mine's dad had it, and this guy had a lot of money, and I think he just got scammed. The company didn't exist, and well, they existed, but then they went out of business, and he wound up putting all this money into
yeah,
long-term care insurance, and I think that was a thing that was popular in the 70s and early 80s, and a lot of people, however many decades later, wound up
sure.
getting screwed. I think that the insurance agency and industry has really changed, and there's more checks and balances. So I will say that to them, and I would say that you got a heck of a lot better chance of finding somebody honest and having a good system now than then.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think it was just a matter of, they got involved with a company that's been bought out multiple times from different entities. So the changing of the guard has been an issue. And, and their rates have increased 5% a year for the last 26 years. So
Yeah.
that, you got to look at companies that, just do your due diligence, I guess.
Well, one thing that you said is that you think that there's a lack of nursing facilities, extended care facilities, and that kind of surprises me because it feels like they're popping up everywhere out in the Northeast.
Okay.
It's just I don't.
You,
But
so where you're
but
at.
back to that, if there is this shortage that you're referencing,
Yeah.
well, no wonder the cost is so damn high. I mean, it's a simple supply and demand. I never even took an economics class, and I
Yeah.
could tell you that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there are some big, beautiful facilities that have gone up in some areas.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
beautiful.
They have the hair salon inside of
Yeah,
them. They have
they
all
even have a bar in them.
the movie theater and yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
love that.
there's
Sign me up.
yeah.
But getting back to the compassion fatigue, I talked about patience, and I use this term a lot because I think it's one of the most powerful anti-emotions that we have. And I wonder if you felt this when you were experiencing this real burnout, compassion fatigue that you were going through. Did you feel that sense of resentment toward the family and the client themselves?
Not towards the client. I think we're human. We try to say like, keeping it professional, and I understand that they have, their life, but in that moment when you're having that compassion fatigue, when you're having that burnout, your mind naturally goes towards like, well, where is their family? Why aren't they here?
Yeah.
You can start, and that's one of the cues when you start asking yourself, like, when you notice that you're getting resentful or
Mhm.
irritable over something.
Patient.
Absolutely. Those are some of those red flag signs in the beginning when you're like, okay, wait a minute, I need to step back. And yeah, absolutely. The resentment, and even in your own home, and even with my own dynamics of my family, sometimes it's like, I think, well, why isn't my brother doing more? Why isn't my sister? Like but that's just human nature. And I think as long as you don't sit and ruminate on it, you know,
Well, and that could be hard, and that's part of the symptoms, I would assume. And I don't know. I've never looked up a definition of compassion fatigue. It's kind of like you know it when you see it, or you know it when you're feeling it,
yeah,
or I guess to your point, maybe you don't even know you're just in it and you're just dragging through the day. And
there are days like that. And I think that's with any or most career choices. I mean, when you're dealing with human beings, it's obviously different than, data entry or something like that. But and no offense to my friends that are data entry, but I think the stakes are just so much higher. You're dealing with a human life. And so I think you tend to give more of the grit. Like you refuse to give up, you refuse to give in, and you're like, I'm just going to push through. But that really doesn't serve, it doesn't really serve you. And it doesn't serve them. And I learned that the hard way.
how does it look when you have, say, family members or any kind of caregiver, family member caregiver, professional caregiver,
Yeah.
and God forbid you have a kid that gets in a car accident, and now this perfectly healthy kid that was 25 years old is now completely dependent on you,
Yeah.
or your elderly mom or dad gets early onset dementia, and you're talking decades and decades. And
It,
I mean, how could that not be tiring, exhausting, just taxing?
Yeah, mentally, physically, emotionally, it just is. And I don't think there is a way of saying that how do you make it not? I think it's a matter of how well your coping mechanisms, how well your support system that you have in place. Because I mean, for myself personally, and I can only speak, what I use, you know, I use insight timer, meditations. They're free. I do binaural beats at night to decompress, breath work, anything that helps regulate your nervous system and to reset and reboot. And sometimes you have to do it 20 times a day.
Yeah, right, right.
You know,
I'd be off. What do they call that? Like dizzy because I'm trying to breathe too much.
hyperventilating.
Hyperventilating. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
hyperventilating.
Well, that's where
Um,
the oxygen mask comes into play.
yes, but I mean, and these are lessons that not for nothing, but a lot of people say these things. Do a little meditation. Go out and breathe. Go outside,
Walk.
around, you get the birds and stuff, and
Yeah.
walk. And it's like all the people that are saying this to me in various forums and different formats.
Yeah.
It can't be wrong with all these people saying the same damn thing. So why do you think we just don't do it?
I think we're hardwired as humans
To
to
push through it, to say I could gut this out?
yeah, and I think we're also, like one of the hardest things, I think one of the hardest things to do as a human is to ask for help. And I don't know why that is. I really,
No, I just talked about this
it's
2 days ago,
baffling.
because if it's so hard for us to ask for help on the one hand,
Yeah.
and yet on the other hand, every single one of us wants to help somebody else. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
It is. It's that duality. It's insanity. And
So I would rather suffer and kill myself than
help.
ask you for help, while you're sitting there saying, I really don't want you to suffer or to beat yourself up and kill yourself. Obviously we're talking euphemistically, but
Right.
you want to help me, but I won't ask for it. But meanwhile, I want to help my mother, father, brother, sister, whatever. It's
Sure.
just
And
crazy.
it goes along. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. There was a gentleman I knew that led a addiction clinic, and one of the exercises that he had done for his patients was he set up like almost like a clothesline maze outside. And his segue was, okay, I'm going to blindfold all of you. This is this is a trust thing, but you blindfold the patients, you walk them out to this maze that they're holding on to, and he tells you, you have one word, just one word, and I'll take the blindfold off, and to get you out of this maze. And the rope was literally in like a loop, so there was no way out of it. The only
Oh,
way,
that's just dirty pool right there.
but the one, you had to come up with the one word, and the
Yeah,
one word was help.
help. I
Help.
figured this much, but
And
that's brilliant. That's pretty
and
cool.
people would just try and try, and hours would go by. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's just sitting there to getting a suntan,
yeah.
right? Listen, I really appreciate this vibrant conversation, because, as I said, I point out the problems in systems. It's what I do. It's what I built a career around. But I know that the people in the system aren't the problem. It's the way that the system is designed and what it's become. And there are caregivers out there who need to know that there are loving, fun, funny people like yourself who are doing this too, and they're willing to help. And you're gonna ask for it, damn it.
You do. And that's just it. Like I say, I don't have a crystal ball. I try to make myself as accessible, and I hope other people like myself, like-minded people, are out there doing the same thing like yourself. And I love the holding it together kind of, because I think
Right.
we're all in that boat. And I think we judge
Right.
ourselves so
We're
harshly.
just barely holding it together. A lot of us are barely, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, just keep holding it together, even if it's only kinda, right?
Exactly. We're all
And
just walking each other home, right? Around
oh
town.
my God, that's a great way. And with that, folks, that's a mic drop right there. We're all just walking each other home. Thank you, Jolene, for being
Thank
here. Thank you so much for the conversation. And thank you for everything you do for so many other people.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
As we wrap up today, I'm really struck by one major slap in the face reality. Caregiving is not a solo sport. If you're doing it alone, you're likely doing it in a way that's unsustainable. Jolene reminded us today that professional nurses have a whole suite of training. They manage their stress. They have a way to go through the various responsibilities and tasks that some of us are just completely ill prepared for. I'm raising my hand right now. And even they face burnout, as she said. Sometimes it just happens, and it's inevitable. If you're a family member at home and you're feeling overwhelmed, give yourself the grace to acknowledge it. It is hard, not because you're failing, but because it's inherently hard, difficult work. It's heavy stuff, man. The goal isn't just to survive the goal is not just to survive this caregiving journey. It's preserving a relationship that's there at the center of it. Take the break, set the boundary. Remember that you can't pour from an empty cup. She said it, the last guest said it, every guest has said it. I've said it a million times, even though I'm so sick of that cliche, but it's so friggin' true. Until the next time, keep holding it together, even if it's only kinda.